The sun hung low over Calico Verge, painting the Nevada desert in hues of blood and gold. Maria Delgado, a geologist in her early 30s, stood at the edge of town, her boots sinking into the warm sand. Her dark braid was tucked under a wide-brimmed hat, and her eyes, sharp and curious, scanned the horizon. She'd come to this forgotten speck of a town 6 months ago, hired by a mining company to survey the land for rare minerals. But Calico Verge wasn't just another job. It was a puzzle, one that had begun to consume her. The town was a relic, its wooden storefronts weathered to a ghostly gray, its population barely 100. The only thing keeping it alive was the oasis, a natural spring that bubbled up in the town square, defying the arid wasteland around it. Locals called it a miracle, but Maria, a woman of science, suspected something geological, an underground aquifer perhaps. Yet the water's strange, metallic tang, and the way it shimmered under moonlight made her wonder. 3 weeks ago, while drilling near an abandoned silver mine, Maria's team unearthed something extraordinary. A smooth, obsidian-like stone, no bigger than a fist, etched with symbols that didn't match any known language. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat when she held it. Her colleagues dismissed it as a curiosity, but Maria couldn't let it go. She'd hidden it in her trailer, spending nights poring over books on ancient scripts, finding nothing that matched. The stone felt alive, and it scared her as much as it fascinated her. Tonight, as the desert cooled, Maria sat at her desk, the stone before her. The trailer's single bulb flickered, casting shadows that danced across the symbols. She'd started noticing things in town, whispers among the locals, sidelong glances when she mentioned the spring. Old Man Kessler, the town's unofficial historian, had warned her to leave the stone alone. Some things belong to the desert, he'd said, his eyes cloudy with age or fear. Maria ignored him. She didn't believe in curses, only answers. But last night, someone had slipped a note under her trailer door. "Return it to the spring, or the sand will take you." No signature, just block letters scratched in pencil. Maria laughed it off at first, a prank by bored locals. But when she found her trailer's lock broken this morning, the stone untouched, but her notes scattered, she wasn't so sure. Someone wanted the stone, or wanted her to stop asking questions. She decided to confront Kessler. His shack, on the edge of town, was cluttered with maps and old mining tools. He was in his 70s, wiry and sun-baked, with a voice like gravel. When Maria showed him the note, he didn't look surprised. "Told you to leave it be," he said, lighting a cigarette. "That stone's older than this town, older than you know." "What is it?" Maria pressed. "The symbols, the pulse. What's it doing here?" Kessler exhaled a plume of smoke. "Folks say the spring's a gift from something that lived here long before us. The Sand Keeper, they call it. That stone's tied to it. Every few decades, someone finds it and things go wrong. People leave. Mines dry up. You keep it, you're asking for trouble." Maria scoffed. "You expect me to believe in a desert spirit?" "Believe what you want," Kessler said. "But that spring's been here forever, and it don't like being messed with." She left, unconvinced but unsettled. Back at her trailer, she packed a flashlight, a notebook, and the stone, determined to investigate the spring. If the stone was connected to it, she'd find out why. The town was quiet as she slipped through the streets, the only sound the crunch of sand under her boots. The oasis was a small pool, ringed by cracked stones, glowing faintly under the stars. Maria knelt, dipping her hand into the water. It was cold, unnaturally so, and her fingers tingled. She placed the stone on the ground, its pulse quickening. The symbols glowed faintly, a soft blue that matched the spring's shimmer. Maria sketched them in her notebook, her heart racing. This wasn't natural. Not the stone, not the water. She needed samples, data, something to explain it. As she reached for her kit, the ground trembled. A low rumble that sent sand cascading into the pool. Maria froze. The rumble grew, and the spring's water began to swirl, forming a vortex. She stumbled back, clutching the stone. From the center of the pool, a shape emerged. Not human, not animal, but a shifting mass of sand and shadow, its form flickering like a mirage. It had no face, but Maria felt its gaze, heavy and ancient. A voice, more vibration than sound, filled her mind. Return what you took. Her hands shook, but she held the stone tighter. What are you? She whispered. The shape didn't answer. The vortex intensified, pulling at the air, tugging at her clothes. Maria's instincts screamed to run, but her curiosity anchored her. She'd spent her life chasing answers, and this, whatever it was the biggest question she'd ever faced. She stepped closer, the stone pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. The ground shook again, and the shape dissolved, the vortex collapsing. Silence returned, broken only by the distant howl of a coyote. Maria's breath came in gasps. Had she imagined it? The stone was warm in her hand, its glow fading. She needed to tell someone. Kessler, her team, anyone. But as she turned, she saw figures at the edge of the square. 3 townsfolk, their faces hidden in shadow, watching her. "Who's there?" she called. They didn't move. Maria grabbed her flashlight, shining it toward them, but they were gone. Her pulse hammered. She stuffed the stone in her pocket and hurried back to her trailer, locking the door behind her. The next morning, Maria drove to the county library, an hour away, to research the symbols. She found nothing, no matches in any archaeological text. But a dusty journal, tucked in the back, mentioned Calico Verge. It described a 1920s mining boom that collapsed after workers reported visions near the spring, shapes in the sand, voices in the dark. The journal's author, a geologist like Maria, had vanished after publishing his findings. Back in Calico Verge, Maria confronted Kessler again. "Who's watching me?" she demanded. "I saw people last night. What do they want?" Kessler sighed. "The keepers. Folks who protect the spring. They've been here as long as the town. They don't take kindly to outsiders meddling." "Protected from what?" Maria asked. "From people like you," he said. "People who dig too deep." That night, Maria couldn't sleep. The stone sat on her desk, its pulse steady. She considered returning it to the spring, but the scientist in her rebelled. She needed proof, data, something to show the world. At midnight, she heard footsteps outside her trailer. Slow, deliberate. She grabbed a wrench, her only weapon, and flung open the door. The street was empty, but a new note lay in the sand. "Last warning. The spring demands it, asterisk." Maria's resolve hardened. She wouldn't be intimidated. She drove to the spring, the stone in her pocket, determined to end this. The pool was still, the air heavy. She held the stone over the water, hesitating. If she dropped it, the mystery might end. But so would her chance to understand it. The ground rumbled again, louder this time. The vortex returned, and the sand shape rose, taller, more defined. Its voice echoed in her skull. You cannot keep what belongs to the desert. Maria's hand trembled, but she didn't let go. Tell me what you are, she said. I deserve to know. The shape lunged, a wave of sand and shadow that knocked her to the ground. The stone flew from her hand, landing near the pool. Maria scrambled after it, but hands grabbed her. Real hands, human. The keepers. 3 men in dark coats, their faces grim. You were warned, one said, his voice low. They dragged her toward the spring. Maria fought, kicking and shouting, but they were stronger. The vortex roared, and the sand shape loomed above. No! Maria screamed, wrenching free. She grabbed the stone and ran, her boots sinking in the sand. The men pursued, but the desert seemed to shift, dunes rising to block their path. Maria reached her trailer, locking herself inside. She hid the stone in a lockbox, her hands shaking. The next day, she packed her things, ready to leave Calico Verge. But as she loaded her truck, Kessler appeared. You're smarter than most, he said. Most don't get away. Did you send them? Maria asked. He shook his head. I just warned folks. The keepers, they answer to something else. Maria drove out of town, the stone in her lockbox. She didn't know where she'd go. Maybe a university, somewhere with experts who could study it. But as she glanced in her rearview mirror, she saw the desert shimmer, the spring's glow faint on the horizon. The stone pulsed in its box, and a whisper filled her mind. You cannot outrun the sand. Months later, Maria's trailer was found abandoned in a Utah desert, her notes scattered, the lockbox empty. Calico Verge's spring still flows, and the townsfolk don't speak of the stone. But at night, when the wind carries sand across the dunes, some say they hear a voice, calling for what was taken.